The following is a presentation of the WRAD Talk Network and New River Radio Group. It's time for Fourth and Goal, presented by Cody Jernell of the Gravity Real Estate Group on the WRAD Talk Network. Voice of the Pulaski County Cougars, Rick Watson, is here to discuss and break down this week's matchups in the New River Valley and beyond. Here is Rick Watson.
And we welcome you back into another edition of the Fourth and Goal Show, getting you ready for all the weekend's high school action. I'm Rick Watson, and I'm joined on the program this week and moving forward. He is the sports director for WFXR. His name is Jermaine Ferrell. Jermaine, how are you, my friend? Good to see you.
I'm doing good, sir. I was waiting for my theme music, but I guess we'll get that later.
Yeah, that'll be post-edit. Yeah, that'll be post-edit.
We'll squeeze that in later.
Right.
But yeah, I'm doing good. I mean, we're getting ready another week of high school football. We got a couple weeks in the books, but it's kind of with everything's going on. It's a moving target where it could be because of games postponed and canceled due to COVID things. But it's a moving target. But we'll stay on top of it because that's how we roll.
Well, and let's get right into that and get this business out of the way, and then we can talk about the matchups and what happened last week. But already the moving target has hit close to home here in the New River Valley and also down in Roanoke County, because Pulaski County for the second straight weekend, Jermaine's had to scramble to find an opponent. Last week, it was Jefferson Forest filling in the gap left off by Bluefield, who were having COVID issues. This week, it was Pulaski County's scheduled game. I'm sorry, against Tennessee last week. This week is Bluefield that's having those issues with COVID. So fortunately for them, last week, Jefferson Forest, and this week, a very good program, James Wood High School. I know you're familiar with it up there near Winchester. They play in that 13-team league, the Northwestern District. Very good football team, a lot of depth coming down. They had an opening, and Pulaski County says, okay, fine. Now they're going to work out a financial agreement, and here we are, Pulaski County for the second straight week. Disappointing to have the original game postponed, but very fortunate to have two opponents back-to-back.
And that's very true with that, Rick, because when you look at their schedule, I mean, they really had 2 weeks to work with. I mean, if you couldn't get one this week, you hopefully get one next week. So it was kind of lucky in the sense that they've had a bye week. But yeah, Pulaski's been real lucky to find opponents to play because of the COVID situation. I mean, when you look at it, the two teams they played were supposed to play in Bluefield, West Virginia, and Tennessee High. Both those schools were out of state. So you had one school in West Virginia, one school in Tennessee, and they had issues down there. And then, to find James Wood, and work that out was pretty key. And this will be Pulaski's first home game on the season, because obviously it made it, I felt, from my perspective, even more important to get a game, because their first two games were on the road, got big wins in impressive fashion. A nail biter against Northside, and then the following week just blowing out Jefferson Forest. So obviously the Cougar faithful, they want to see their team at Dobson Stadium, the Cougars' den, as they say, to get that game in. So it was very important. But the good thing is, Rick, like I mentioned, they had 2 weeks to work this thing out. So if you couldn't get one, and it's also about timing, because the early enough in the week you got, the better chances you find a game. If someone cancels on you on a Wednesday or Thursday, you're in a tough spot, because there is no way you can find a game in time for Friday unless you're just lucky.
Well, and unfortunately, that's what we found out this morning for Christiansburg. The Blue Demons will not be able to play their game against William Byrd. Roanoke County has shut down that school because of protocols. So no JV or varsity game. And just what you said, Jermaine, not enough time for Tim Cromer, the AD, there to try to find another opponent. So they're going to search for a future opponent. It's very unfortunate all the way around to find out this late. But I think you said it a couple of weeks ago on Big Dog before the season got started. Unfortunately, this is something we're going to have to deal with. It won't be the last time. Certainly, it might even be a week-to-week thing, regardless of where you're talking about. And that's what James Wood dealt with, Jermaine. They were going to play this week, and the school they were going to play is out because of the virus. So that's why they found themselves needing a partner. So it's worked out good for Pulaski County. Didn't work out so well for Christiansburg, but it's something definitely, unfortunately, we were hoping we'd be out of it, but it looks like it's going to be part of the 2021 fall season.
And the interesting thing too, Rick, I've had even coaches reach out to me and ask me, well, who's canceled the game, who's opened up, and that's the thing. I mean, it's like every day and it's almost like every hour. It's not even every day; it's every
Yeah.
hour, every minute. And I think with the pandemic situation has really started off this way, where you have to look at your schedule and you got to see, okay, am I going to have a game, and who has a game? So you almost have to scour and also maybe even pre-plan. Let's just say if you know of a team that's probably not going to happen, and then you notice, you look at your situation, say, okay, can we schedule something right now? But the Christiansburg William Byrd thing that happened so late in the game
Right.
that now Christiansburg they're going to figure that out, and you might have a situation like we did in the spring, Rick, where you might play a game on Monday and then turn around and shift your game to a Saturday.
Absolutely.
So I mean, it's just going to be so tough. And I feel for the kids, I feel for the players. But at the end of the day, I mean, until we get this thing reined in, you don't want to take a chance. You don't want to risk something happening to a player or a kid or all that. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's something we're going to live with, something we're going to stay with, and hopefully we can get it under control. But until we do, we are going to have situations like this where we're going to be like, just put your schedule in pencil. Don't even put it in pen.
No,
Like
yeah, that's right.
when I try to get our crews together and go out and cover games for Friday Night Blitz, I put on it when I email it. I says subject to change for obvious reasons. So you got to do it that way. But hopefully, we can continue and have a season. But I mean, right now, I mean, it's like all hands on deck. You got to make sure if you're an AD or a football coach, you definitely got to. And that's another thing, preparing for your opponent. Because now, I mean, how it is. These coaches, Rick, they prepare for an opponent, and now
weeks ahead of time, right?
Weeks ahead of time, yeah. And so now, basically, you got to just rip that up, throw it away, and now you got to try to figure out and get video. I talked actually real quick with Coach Winford Beal down in Floyd County, and they had a game set up, but then they had to change that and found Gracie County because I think they were supposed to play Auburn, if I'm not mistaken, and they had to just redo everything and figure that out and because they would exchange video, which is funny when Coach Beal said that. That's like old school exchanging film.
Exchanging film, man. Right.
Yeah, and
right.
video. And I remember real quick, the story that Coach Joel Hicks told me one time about how they had to process their game film like on a Saturday and hurry and go to a place and they would meet coaches halfway, or they'd put it on a Greyhound or something like that to get it to a team that might not be that close. So it's a unique way of doing things back then, but obviously you could probably email video now with the huddle and all that stuff. But
yeah, it was a gentleman's agreement back then. And you're right. You didn't have all this electronic ingenuity. So they had to literally figure out a way to transport the film. Okay, you gave us yours. We have to give you ours, or we're going to meet here and you hand us yours each time, right? We've got our film in our left hand. You've got your film in the right hand. Okay, on three, let's hand it off one by one so we can have a way to scout.
Or another thing is, if you're tight with a team in your district and they played that opponent, you could talk to another coach. And usually, more times than not, teams are real close with each other in their district. So if they played an opponent they're not familiar with, they'll get intel from them. But it's gone from exchanging film to exchanging videotape to DVD, and now it's just like a link. You just send a link. Here's our video, and there you go.
Well, there are several teams that are off to good starts. And I know it's important, it's 2 weeks, right? You don't want to have a rapid reaction and think this is the way it's going to be. But you've watched enough high school football, as have I. When you get off to a good start, Jermaine, it is so imperative to the minds of young people, especially heading into what we were coming out of and what the fall season is going to present. But there are lots of teams here in the New River Valley, I know down in the Roanoke Valley, off to very impressive starts, right? I mean, you look at what's going on in the River Ridge District. It's always going to be very tough. Salem trying to rebound after the Martinsburg loss. Pulaski County 2-0, you mentioned last week, they had 3 different players score 2 touchdowns each in that win against Jefferson Forest. Christiansburg 2-0, we know they can't play this weekend. Patrick Henry, a very, very tough out. And other schools as well. Glenver off to a terrific start. That's a very dangerous team. I mean, there's so many teams that have gotten off to very impressive beginnings. Galax continuing to get it done up the road. So, I mean, there's just a lot of good stuff happening on the field.
And even in your own city, Radford. How about Radford?
Oh, the
Getting
Bobcats
off
2-0. Yeah.
with Coach Chris. I mean, hey, all he does is know about winning. I mean, the pedigree and the Radford history, the third coach they've had in 50 years. They're getting off. Yeah, they're like I mentioned, like I think I said it before. I said it during his introductory press conference. You guys are like the Pittsburgh Steelers. You're red, black. I mean, you're
That's right.
black and
That's
you're
right.
black and gold like them. You only have 3 coaches in 50 years. So I mean, but it's stability in those programs. They know what it takes to win. And another team really been impressive too is Hidden Valley. They're off to a 2-0 start.
Right.
They got
Right.
Northside coming up this Friday at Bogle. That's going to be a fun matchup. But yeah, overall, I mean, the key is to get off to a start. If you play well and you get off to a 2-0 start, there's a lot of excitement and a lot of energy and passion. Glenford's off to a 2-0 start and all that. So if you can get off to a good start, it sets yourself up for a strong season. But like I said, like you said too, even if you lose your first 2 games, you look at who you played. So if you played 2 tough teams and you hung in there, I mean, that's, one factor. But on the flip side, I mean, you don't care. I mean, yeah, you can look at the win. You always want to win. It's better you can do more coaching and teaching, I feel, a lot of times off of a win than a loss because,
Yes.
we won the game, but we could have done these things, stronger or better and all that. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think it's ready to hit the panic button, but I think, at the end of the day, you do want to win, and you got to win because you know how it is with the playoffs. So you know about the VHSL numbers, and like I said, I think we need a mathematician or someone like that to crank it out. I try not to even understand the VHSL playoff point system. I just say, okay, tell VHSL they'll crank out their top 10 or whatever when it comes to the middle of the season. I'll wait for that, Rick, but I'm not going to calculate. I'm not going to do that. That's not in my job description. So I leave it to them.
They've made it much more complicated than it needs to be. We'll just leave it at that. But you can take care of things.
Yeah, we can get a Radford University mathematician. You work with them down there. Just have one of them.
Yeah,
okay, figure out the VHSL playoffs, and they'll look at you probably like, "Are you kidding me?
We
it's harder
can't do
than my
that.
regular job."
We're not capable of that.
Yeah, and they're smart people. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying, people smarter than me struggle figuring that out.
Well, and the one thing here before we break away, and I know you can speak to this because you guys at WFXR are everywhere, at camps, and you're doing your preseason, you're talking to coaches. I'm just, again, reaffirmed in my belief that we are very fortunate, not only here in the New River Valley, but also down your way toward Roanoke City, Roanoke County, and regardless of where you're talking about in the state, far Southwest Virginia, wherever it might be, we have terrific coaches leading these programs, and they've had to endure so much as every school administrator has had to. But when I look at these coaches and how they're continuing to go forward and continuing to get their young men prepared to play despite all these obstacles, I'm so impressed with the coaches that we have throughout high school football in the Commonwealth. To be honest, we talk about all these legends and we still have Winford Bill going, but I'm not sure that from a young coach's perspective or a younger coach's perspective, Jermaine, we've ever had this much quality depth at the head coach position throughout high school football.
You hit that right on the head, Rick. I mean, you got guys that they are always a joy. When I go visit, we visit the coaches and we talk to them. I mean, they're always so accommodating and they're so willing to promote their program. I mean, the biggest thing I never want to do when I go cover a team, I don't want to be, especially at practice, I never want to be a distraction or a hindrance. But the coaches, they know, like case in point, just to give you a quick breakdown, when if we do a story or something, I always call up the coach and say, hey, coach, can we come out? Yeah, sure, come on out. But I always like to interview the players and the coaches before practice. Mm-hmm. And it's a 2-part reason. Number one, we don't want to be a distraction. But number two, if they have a bad practice, maybe they're not so interested.
Nobody wants to talk. Right.
So it's a twofold thing. And that's what we do there. But it's a joy to go out to these practices. These kids, and the kids get fired up when they see a camera out there, not only during a game, but also during practice, because obviously they don't want to look bad. And we never want to make a program or a kid look bad, but there's a lot of responsibility with these coaches. So these coaches rock and roll, Rick, and it's always a joy to see what they can do. So kudos to them, because this is a season unlike any other. I thought during the spring we said that, but now it's also the fall too.
We are hoping you're enjoying this week number 3 of Fourth and Goal show here on the program. We're going to take a break, come back. More about what's going on with WFXR Jermaine Ferrell. And you can catch their highlights first each and every Friday night. They're all over the Commonwealth. More coming up. We'll look ahead at this coming week's schedule after this. Stay with us here on the Fourth and Goal show.
Now back to more comprehensive high school football coverage in the New River Valley on Fourth and Goal, presented by Cody Jernell of the Gravity Real Estate Group on WRAD. Here once again is Rick Watson.
And we welcome you back into the Fourth and Goal show. I'm Rick Watson, very excited to be joined by Jermaine Ferrell, the sports director at WFXR. And again, talk about Friday Night Blitz, Jermaine. You guys do such a great job with the highlights and always great enthusiasm and always about the community, which is very important.
Yes, sir. You hit it right on the head. I mean, Friday Night Blitz, we've had this show. We're going on our 5th season with the show because we started back in 2015 as a news product. I mean, we kind of started in the fall, but we had limited coverage. But then in 2016, we got our show out, and we've been rocking and rolling. We come on every Friday night at 11 on WFXR, and we replay the show actually on WWCW. So if you miss it, then you can catch it Saturdays at 11:30 on WWCW, which is where CW station as well as WFXR. So, we get out to our average. So we try to get out in the neighborhood of, let's say, 9, 10, 11 games. We get out there. We also do a special feature piece. It's called the Friday Night Blitz Spotlight. We spotlight some aspect of high school football. Maybe we talk to a former player, former coach, whatever, something like that. And then we have our Player of the Week, which Ryan Moy, he does a tremendous job on that. And in fact, I'm going to tease it a little bit, but our Player of the Week will have a New River Valley connection. And it's a tease. I'll just throw it out there. But
all right. I love it.
Our Player of the Week will have a New River Valley connection. And that's all I can say on that. And then David DeGuzman, he goes out, he covers, we look at our game of the week, which is our biggest game that we have out there. So we have that. And then also we do the student playback high school game of the week where Dave Ross and Steve Myers, they call a game. We air that Saturdays on WWCW because there's not a set time with that game, Rick, when we replay it on Saturday because we have Southern Conference games. We air Southern Conference games. So we got that now. Our game of the week for not only, actually for the WWCW, and I know we'll talk about this, is Salem taking on William Fleming. William Fleming with 2 tough losses to start off the season. As they lost 2 games. They lost a tough one to Heritage at the beginning of the year, 33-18. And then last week in overtime, they lost to Albemarle on the road. So you get a Salem team, Rick, that, again, COVID impacted not their program, their opponent, because had that physical game against Martinsburg, West Virginia, Rick, but then they turned around, had their game against Franklin County postponed. They moved that to later in the season. So you got 2 teams that are, it's an intriguing matchup because both those teams are winless. And I thought for sure that game would not have a situation where you'd have a winless matchup. So it is so important. It might be more important maybe for William Fleming because if you go 0-3 in the region that they're in, because it's a 16-team region now that they play in, I mean, you don't want to be in that situation. And I believe the region that Salem is in, I think it's a 10-team region. So you don't want to get out. You got to win because you don't want to, lose a bunch of games early because you got to dig yourself out that hole. And depending on who you play, it's a tough one. But yeah, that'll be the student playback game on WWCW Saturday.
All right. Well, we're looking forward to all that and all the great coverage coming up a little bit later on tonight. There are games now. Again, we're going to look ahead to some, but here's the complete list of postponed games that we have right now. Here in the area, North Cross to Eastmont postponed. We've already talked about Bluefield, Pulaski, and Jermaine mentioned Floyd County and Auburn, Amherst County, Blacksburg, Grayson County, Rural Retreat. Bath County won't be playing Mountain View, and also Brookville, Fluvanna County, all those games postponed. Rockbridge County's game against Wilson Memorial also postponed. And we're assuming most of those are centered around virus protocol issues, and they're going to do the best they can to make those up at later times. All right, some games that are being played. Salem and Fleming. You just talked about the Spartans, and they have to go on the road. Fleming's always a very athletic team. Salem, these are the kind of games though they rebound very well in, especially when they can kind of circle the wagons and lead home.
And again, with Salem, they rarely lose 2 games in a row, so that's another factor. And I think when they played Martinsburg, and we were there for that, it was like a mirror because Martinsburg and Salem. I mean, Martinsburg, they've won 8 state championships in the decade, in the past decade. And Salem's had great success too. So when they played them, you knew it was going to be a physical, tough game. And Salem, basically, they got 2 weeks to prepare for Fleming. So that's another thing. And I think if you give Don Holter's crew an opportunity to play 2 games, it's going to be interesting, So it'll be a fun matchup, to say the least, when you get those 2 teams battling. And of course, with Fleming, you got Coach Jamar Lovelace and the energy and passion he's put in that program. Again, 2 tough losses, but this is a type of game and type of teams they can rebound from and play well with.
You mentioned Radford. They're going for their 3rd straight win, 2nd time on the road, back-to-back this week at Fort Chiswell. Always a great battle. The battle of the old black and gold uniforms, right? Radford High School and Fort Chiswell, the Pioneers.
Yeah, and that's going to be a fun matchup too, because Radford, I mean, they're on a roll, 2-0, and they're rocking and rolling, and they had a great win Saturday. They have a short week. They beat Gates City. When you go down there and you play that team, it's always going to be a tough matchup, and they pulled that out on a Saturday. So they had a shorter week to prepare for their matchup with Fort Chiswell. Fort Chiswell, of course, they've had some of their ups and downs overall, but again, Radford, anytime you play a team on the road, it's going to be tough. But, Radford, again, they just keep on keeping on. I mean, they keep winning. They keep having the success. So it's always, special to see what they can do when they are handling business.
Absolutely. Furthering games around, you mentioned Northside Hidden Valley trying to go to 3-0 on the season. K-Spring and that Glenver team undefeated. Always emotional when Glenver plays a team out of the River Ridge. And boy, I tell you what, that is a very, very good football team. Kevin Clifford is a dynamite head coach.
He's another one. I mean, he's won a state championship back in 2014. He's always got his teams prepared. And obviously Aiden Walker, quarterback. I mean, talk about a guy that can sling the ball around and do well. I mean, they had a great win over Martinsville down there. Martinsville was a program with, under Coach Bobby Martin, trying to grow that program after they were off last year due to COVID. But, Glenver, I tell you, K-Spring with Nick Leftwich, they have a new coach there with, Salem pedigrees, former Salem coach, assistant at William Fleming. They've been playing competitive football the last couple of weeks. I mean, had a close one against Northside for the most part, and then they had a close one against Hidden Valley. So it's their 3rd straight week playing someone in Roanoke County, and it's going to be a fun matchup there. I mean, I think K-Spring, I feel like that they feel positive about what they've done all year, and they've kind of played a ground and pound and had to pass it when they need to. But a Glenver team that's really playing strong, so it's going to be a tough one down at Highlander Heaven for K-Spring, but it'll be a good matchup. Again, 2 teams in the Roanoke County.
Other games, EC Glass, who's looked very strong so far at the beginning of the season at GW Danville. Liberty playing Stanton River. Stanton River couldn't play last week against Jefferson Forest. They're back in school and get ready to play this weekend. How about Riverheads and Lord Botetourt? What a terrific, just a terrific matchup. Hey, this may be the best game in the whole state, right? The 5-time champ against Lord Botetourt looking to win a championship. I mean, what a great matchup early in the year.
Yeah, you're right about that. And real quick, I want to circle back real quick if I could to the Liberty Stanton River game.
Yeah.
Liberty started off the season 2-0.
Right.
So that's a pretty good matchup, what they got with Coach Watson, what he's doing over at Liberty. But yeah, this is going to be an interesting matchup because these 2 teams, Rick, are very similar. I mean, Riverheads won 5 straight state championships. The last playoff game they lost was to Galax. That was a 7-6 state championship game back in 2015 at Salem Stadium. Lord Botetourt bounced back after that tough loss to EC Glass, which they played much better in the second half of that EC Glass game than they did the first half because they were down at one point, Rick, 40-7. and then they bounced back and they scored 23 points to make it a closer ball game. Sort of like, well, I love what Dick Enberg, you say, cosmetic scores, as they say.
Yes.
So the 41-30 game looks a whole lot better than 41-7. Whereas Riverheads, I mean, they like to play ground and pound, just like Lord Balatot. So again, Riverhead's a Class 1 program, and like we know, they beat Galax last year in the state championship game, so they know what it takes to win state championships. Whereas Balatot's been knocking on the door of a state championship game, so this is going to be an intriguing matchup. It is probably one of the better matchups in the state that people are looking at. How can Riverheads match up with a team that's two classifications bigger than them? But it'll be interesting how it plays out. I mean, Jamie Harless, he always has those guys going. And, KJ Bratton, the quarterback, very mobile, and he does a great job there as well. So it'll be a fun matchup in Daleville between the Cavaliers and Riverheads. That 7 o'clock kickoff. In fact, that'll be our Friday Night Blitz game of the week. David Guzman will be on the scene for that.
Excellent.
That is, if you guys don't have, it's true. If you guys don't have a vested interest in a game or a program, or if your program's off or whatever, I would recommend going to see that game, because that's almost going to be a playoff-like game. Two teams, again, that knows, they both know what it takes to make deep playoff runs.
Grayson County, you mentioned playing at Floyd now. Narrows 2-0, having a lot of points. Sounds familiar from the spring. They've got a bunch of new starters, a bunch of super sophomores. 2-0, and again, they have not allowed a single point through their first two games. Good luck to Chohowie in that one. You mentioned James Wood, Pulaski County, Perry McClure, and James River. James River, one of those teams that can be a problem, especially at home. Carroll County and Galax. Galax coming off a big win last week against Giles. That Giles County team playing George Wythe. George Wythe off to an 0-2 start. So teams that are trying, as we talked about, don't want to read too much into it, but they need better performances, a couple of those schools, in particular George Wythe this week.
It's funny. I think we mentioned this last week during the Big Dog Sports Talk. Improvement from week 1 to week 2, but now you kind of want to carry that on from week 2 to week 3, because you definitely want to play better. You want to get that going, because the biggest thing is, and I feel this in high school football, can you get it going every week? And that'll be the key going on. But yeah, fun week of games, and we're looking forward to it, Rick. I'm fired up about it, because we'll have Friday Night Blitz again at 11 o'clock tonight. So we'll be ready to go with all of the coverage.
Well, we can't wait to see you guys there. You do such a great job. And Jermaine, I'm looking so forward to the rest of the season with you here on the 4th and Goal Show, man. Great stuff this morning.
Thank you so much, sir. I mean, we've had some good stuff together, Rick, and it's a joy to be a part of your orbit, as they say.
Exactly. Thanks to Cody Journell for sponsoring this program. We want to thank everybody who tuned in. Folks, enjoy the games while we have them, when you have them, wherever you might have them. Appreciate them. Until next week, for Jermaine Ferrell, this is Rick Watson saying so long, and thanks for listening to the 4th and Goal Show. Now let's head on out to the ballpark. So long, everybody.
You've been listening to 4th and Goal with Rick Watson, presented by Cody Journell of the Gravity Real Estate Group on the WRAD Talk Network. Tune in again Fridays at 6 p.m. all season long for in-depth analysis of high school football in the New River Valley. This has been a production of the WRAD Talk Network and New River Radio Group. Copyright 2021. All rights reserved.